Hello and welcome to another video, and again thank you for your support and thank you for saying well done on my 5,000 subscribers, and let's hope it keeps going. Yeah, I don't really much to say that. Again, thank you to new members, and if you like the video, hit like, and if you really enjoy it, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and make sure you turn on all notifications and you'll know when I upload next. But last time I went to the second oldest church in the country. Technically, this time I went to the oldest church in the country. We went to Canterbury, and it was an interesting evening. Nearly got run off the road on the Dartford Bridge by a lorry. Managed to meet all the wildlife of Canterbury, the human wildlife of Canterbury. It was strange. I don't think going there on a Saturday night is fair. It didn't give me probably the best impression of the place. One thing I know from going back there this time, I mean I've been there lots of times over the years, but the amount of litter, it was the high street was just covered in litter, and it's sad to see, and that's such a historic place, literally just covered in litter everywhere. But again, Saturday night, let them off. Council workers don't work on Saturday night. So it's probably built up during the day, and you've got seagulls ripping up rubbish bags and yeah, everywhere. So I guess they're probably up against it a little bit. Why I chose to go to Canterbury is that there are so many ghost stories, and it's hard to pick out the particular ones I want to cover. So I've selected a few that have some sort of links or have something in common with each other, or places that I've been to in the past. And yeah, it's just, I hope you can enjoy it. I'm not going to dive really into the history that much. I'm going to touch upon it and all that, but I hope those who like the history part aren't disappointed that I'm not covering more. But also I got moaned at for waffling on about history in my video, so I try to find the right balance still, but I feel I'm just going to make them how I want to make them, really. That's how I got to 5,000 subscribers, isn't it, really? So yeah, anyway, let's get on with it. Okay, so like most major places around the UK, we can trace our history back with Canterbury to sort of the Bronze Age and all that sort of time, and it comes into its own roundabout. You know, the Romans, first AD, the Romans come in, do some settlements there. Now there is something funny, right? So in the last video we done a 1,300-year-old church. Canterbury has the Church of St Martin's that reckoned it was built in, I've got it down, 597 AD. But it says before that, right? I think someone's playing with numbers just to say they can say they're 100 years older than the chapel of St Peter on the Wall. So get some old testing done on that, work out what site is really the oldest. I think Canterbury don't want to let go of the oldest church in the country. But yeah, so the Church of St Martin's, it is old, it's really old. But St Augustine come over, set up a chapel at Canterbury. This was the first form of the cathedral that was developed in the UK. From then on, the cathedral built what we see today, and it is stunning, absolutely stunning. But a lot of it is in sort of ruins now, and they're trying to redo it. I will say the gate entrance, I always call it the Sir Thomas Becket entrance. It's not, I can't remember what it's actually called, but that's had scaffolding up on it for years. I think I remember going there just after I left school in about 88, 89, and that was scaffolded up then, and it's still got scaffolding up today. So it's probably, contract's probably gone to Bakers of Danbury, you know, probably on it by an hourly rate or something like that. If you know, you know. But the problem I've got with Canterbury at the moment is that, and it is good to see it all being repaired and everything, but they've built things like a hotel in the cathedral grounds that just looks modern and out of place. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But enough of me whinging and ranting about Canterbury Cathedral. If you don't know where Canterbury Cathedral is, it's in Canterbury in Kent. It's not far from Whitstable, so you can actually, if you go down there, you can visit Canterbury and Whitstable, and probably Rochester in the same day. If you wanted to do a little bit of a road trip, you could fit them all in quite easily and see some of these haunted places. So let's go on to some of the ghosts. And we're going to start with the most popular ghost, and that is Thomas Becket. Now, Thomas Becket, if you don't know, he was murdered in the cathedral. Some say he was actually murdered by mistake. And the rumour is that 4 knights or a knight overheard Henry II turn around and say that he wished Thomas to lose his life. So they got 4 knights together, went out to Canterbury Cathedral, went in there, dragged him down the aisle, done him over, and now he's meant to haunt the place. And this was on the 29th of December 1170. So I think he was just over 50 years old when he lost his life. But as you know, he came on to be Sir Thomas Becket, and the history rolls on. Where is he meant to haunt in the church? Well, the crypt is one of them, and we have a photo here that is on the National Archives, and they reckon this is a photograph of Sir Thomas Becket in the crypt, and writing is meant to appear in that crypt, and this is meant to be a photo of his spirit. I can't really work much out from this photo, but see what you think. The other place he haunts is the cloisters. So here I'm walking around the cloisters, and it's got a strange feeling. My daughter says that she's finally found Hogwarts, but again, it looks really tatty. The grass hasn't been cut, and yeah, it's again scaffolding now, and just modern barriers inside the cloisters. It didn't feel, I don't know, it didn't feel right. Something didn't feel right about walking around now, and it's like someone's not appreciating the history of Canterbury Cathedral at the moment. And yeah, I don't like all these modern items being slapped around. I know they're doing work on it, but it just doesn't feel nice. But walking around now, you can imagine the history of this place. Walk around the cloisters, it has that eerie feeling that you get in any sort of location like this. But Sir Thomas Becket's ghost is seen regularly walking around that cloisters, and I'll tell you a few of the stories now. So let's start with a modern ghost sighting of the old Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Becket. So 2024, so really recent. A school group are on a school trip going through Canterbury Cathedral. Now they go through and they've got the cloisters, and they're walking around the cloisters, and they've arranged to be able to have their lunch, their picnic lunch, outside in the nice weather. They're taking them over to, there's an area here that I'll show you where we walk to, and it's a grassed area, so they're all sitting over there having their lunch. 2 teachers are walking around, and they've gone up to the old water tower there, and they go back in and walk around the cloisters, and they're taking photos as they go around, and they're taking a photo of each other. Now this lady, she leans up to where the crypt door is. Now it's not, I don't think, I may have got a shot of the crypt door. She leans up against it. The woman goes to take a photo, and as she holds up the phone to take the photo, through the lens of the camera, she sees a figure standing next to her friend. She's taking the photos and then goes, there's a ghost, I've got a ghost, I've got a ghost. They look at the photo on the phone, there's nothing there. You can't see anything on the photo. Her friend thinks she's joking. The other teacher is just pale-faced, going, I see a ghost. And she goes, it was a bishop. He goes, he had all these robes on and it was a ghost. Now I'm going to say as well that the thing about the cloisters, although you've got Thomas Becket, he's meant to be the most popular one to haunt it, other people around the cathedral say that it is also haunted by more recent bishops and archbishops, and it seems if they want to carry on doing their work, and they're seen pacing around the cloisters. We're only saying Thomas Becket this time because that is what the lady reported as, that she sees the ghost of Thomas Becket. The other teacher thinks she's making it up because there's nothing on the photos that she took, so they leave it at that. They walk off, and they've only gone up a little bit further, and the lady who has her doubts turns around and wants to take a photo looking down the cloisters. She's standing there taking these photos, passing through the other side of the cloisters, because you can look right across to the other side. She reckons she sees a figure of a bishop walking down through the other side. She's taking photos, and again nothing comes out on the photos. They go back, tell the other teachers, and they're laughing at them taking the mick. The head teacher that is there goes over and has a look. Now the report from the head teacher adds something that comes in line with some historic reports of other people's experiences. So the head teacher comes back and says, I think I've just seen him too, but this time he had a group of monks walking around with him. They've all laughed and they've left it at that, and they've come back, and the school kids hear about it and the rumours go around and everything. But that last bit about him being followed around by monks is actually the old reports of the ghost of Thomas Becket. So most people say when they see the ghost of Thomas Becket walking around the cloisters, he is surrounded by a group of monks and they're walking around peacefully. Thomas Becket has his head down and these monks are following him behind, again with their head down and in prayer. And this is reported for the last 300 years. So even the old archbishops that have been there turned around and said they have seen the ghost of Thomas Becket walking through the cloisters with his head bowed down and being followed by a load of monks. I'm not going to get an argument with the church and the archbishops that don't end well normally. But these are the reports that people have about the cloisters. And you have other reports about the cloisters. So the water tower itself. So we walked around, I taken some filming around the water tower. There's maybe a ghost of a young girl by that water tower. What I find interesting about this is that ghost of that young girl has been seen since the 18th century. So she would have passed away a long time ago. We do know that Canterbury got hit by the plague quite bad and the Black Death. So there's a lot of young infant deaths and young children died. But also that only a few yards away you've got the infirmary. Now the old infirmary is just ruins now. But again, that has got lots of ghost reports of elderly people, young people, older men that are seen out as ghosts walking around. So you've got this hive of this activity of these spirits literally a door's away. You know, they can walk through, and they probably would have used it. If they're in the infirmary, they could have used the cloisters as exercise or something like that. I don't know that side of history of it or how long the infirmary was there. I think it was 12 something. But what you should know about the infirmary is that once Henry VIII came in and he got rid of all the monasteries, and after the Reformation it was turned into houses, so now it's just ruins, but that was houses as well. This could be an explanation why we get ghosts of younger children. Now, during that time, we don't really know what went on around that area. Again, a lot of stuff was going on with witchcraft as well, which we'll come up to later on. So the whole place has got a lot of deep history and weird things went on. And the other one we have is the Grey Lady of the Garden. So the chapel has got a garden over there. Now this would have been attended by monks and all that, but a Grey Lady is meant to be seen walking around the garden, and there's a lot of Grey Ladies in Canterbury. Get a lot of them come up, and we're going to cover some of those later on as well. But people that have gone around now late autumn evenings walking around the little herb garden say they see this Grey Lady over in the far distance in the corner. Now apparently where the alcove is, I try and get a little bit of filming down there. You can't really get down there. It's all sort of like, looks like it's collapsing. They say that she's seen walking along the arches at the back. Now I'm guessing during the original times that would have been a walkway. They say they see her walking along that area there, then coming out down the other end, walking through the herb garden. But it just adds to another part of the history and these paranormal stuff. I don't want to stick much longer around the cathedral. All around the outside of the cathedral You have reports of ghosts of monks, reports of bishops that are ghosts walking around there. You've got a lot. There's a lot of ghost reports around Canterbury Cathedral. And I could make a 4-hour video just relaying all the stories about these sightings, but they're all basically the same. But walk around the corner into the courtyard, and they'll stay there and they'll see a monk in the middle, or they walk through the cloisters. As they're walking through the cloisters, they see a monk cut through the shadows. Now that I would find a little bit creepy. And there is one point here that you can walk out and you walk up this darkened area of the cloisters, and it takes you out onto where you've got the private houses now, and it does feel really, really creepy. It goes really dark, and they've got the orange light in there, and you can imagine monks walking through there, and they did. Now these are places where monks did walk through. Now if you hooded monks, they walked through. My shelf was going to collapse. Now they walked through. Do you like me? I clad his belt in copper as well. But they used to walk through that area, and it does feel creepy when you think about it. And it was nice. I did spend a couple of minutes there just thinking about it. But what I did work out is that there's no way these monks were that tall. See the size of the doors? They must have been like Jawas out of Star Wars, you know. So, they must have been tiny. The doors around there are really small. Even the archways are really small. So we're going to redesign the monks and do them as Jawas out of Star Wars. But yeah, but that's sort of really going to be my final say on the cathedral itself. And we're going to move outside into the streets. So our next ghost has got quite an interesting story, and it seems to be a little bit mixed up, and there's a few places that claim this, but we are looking at the Bishop's Finger, and that is in Dunstan Street. So I walked up to the Bishop's Finger and looking around, doing a little bit of filming, spoke to the security guard out there, who then told me loads of ghost stories. And then a bloke come out the pub, he told me a load more ghost stories, more than I can cover in this video, because I'm trying to make this video a little bit shorter. It was fantastic, and to meet people that have the same passion for telling ghost stories, I loved it. But yeah, it's the Bishop's Finger. The Ellen Blaine, I think that's how you say her name. Ellen Blaine was the housekeeper there. Now it's now a pub, and she is meant to have poisoned her husband and his mistress. A few years later, she goes missing, and she is found walled up in another building. So we don't know how she ended up in there. Obviously, some topped her and walled her up in there. Some people say this is fictitious. Other people say that it's the wrong building, and she was at the Weaver's house, which we're going to cover in a minute. Oh yeah, Shane Ralph.
Bob Epps.
You want to look me up? You look me up on YouTube.
Ben, who was my sister's age, we did a Ouija board, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, we did, you know.
Others say she's linked to the bodies of two boys, so it all gets a little bit confusing. But yes, the story is that Ellen was a very jealous lady, and that she discovered her husband was having an affair with this other lady, and over a period of a few days she was feeding them poison, and they both passed away. She got away with it, although rumours did spread around the area that she had done this, and then eventually she herself disappeared. Some building works were being done, and the wall was pulled down, and they found her body in this wall. She is said to haunt the very front part of this building. Literally, so you go in, and right on the left hand side is where she's meant to haunt. The other side we got is that she's said to haunt the Streets of Canterbury. Now it's not limited just to the streets outside. She's meant to haunt all the roads going down up towards the cathedral, which is quite a long stretch for a ghost to haunt. but the tales of people bumping into her are very wide and very varied. One of the good ones we can go back to, and we always seem to bump into this little instance, is that during World War II, and I guess it's same sort of time as like when we had the pandemic and no one was meant to be out on the streets. That is the same thing with World War II. But during the blackout, everyone had to be off the streets and all the lights were out. The only people who were out were the air raid wardens. The air raid warden was walking down that street and he sees a lady walking straight down the middle of the road. And he hurries up and says, "Come on, we've got to get you to safety. We've got to come get you to safety." As he goes to touch the lady to turn her around, his hand goes straight through her and then she vanishes. This shocks him, and again, people around the area know the history and they just put it down to a ghost. And I think people were more accepting of bumping into ghosts then than what they are now. More recently, I've been contacted by not just my subscribers, but people who know what I've done in the past, my paranormal stuff. And they're coming forward with ghost stories. And it's nice to hear that we're still getting those reports coming through. And they're not just of old ghost stories, they're like modern ones. Well, I mean modern ones, they're the ghosts of modern people. So they're not just people from history. These are ghost stories of modern people that have passed away in the last 20 years, which is quite exciting really, that we may get a new batch of these ghost stories coming through where people are not so scared about reporting some of the things that they see. And it goes back to like the time slip. Thank you all so much. You've sent me so much stuff on time slips. Yeah, I mean, I've got a load of my own that I want to cover eventually, but you sent me so many more, and yeah, it's fantastic. So we may end up doing a little series on time slips. I've got one coming up. Probably this one's going up on Tuesday. The Friday one may be another time slip story. But the other story we have about the Bishop's Finger, and that is of the children. So the stairway going up, not only is the stairway said to be haunted by Ellen, also by the children. So these children are seen walking up the stairway, and the grey figure of Ellen is seen to be at the top, and these children are said to be following her going up. Again, that could be used at another building where there was 2 bodies of children found in the old ruins of a building. But again, it's now been used on Bishop's Finger. It does seem a little bit interchangeable, these ghost stories around the area. It's like people are fighting to have that ghost in their building. The old staff here say when they're locking up, or even they're just working, they'll look up and they see the figure of Ellen standing in the front part of that building, or see her moving up the stairs. The children again are seen out on the street and in front of this building. One of the other sightings we have on the Bishop's Finger is actually during Christmas. This is Christmas 1901, and apparently the outside of the building was all decorated with Christmas fair, getting ready for Christmas Eve, where there's maybe this big event taking place. Some people along there were setting up stalls alongside of the road, and it is said that the ghost of Ellen was seen walking down the centre of these stalls. Many people turn around and witness her walking down the centre and then disappearing halfway down the road. When you've got these mass sightings of ghosts, it's hard to shake them off as mass hysteria. I don't know. It's documented. I do understand that one of the local ghost walks tells you more about this detail. But I do wonder if these ghost walks are also responsible for mixing up the locations of where these ghosts are meant to be. Because we go back down to the Weaver's house, and that's what we're going to cover now. The Weaver's house, again, is one of the most historical buildings in Canterbury. Has got a wild history on it that may be true, but probably not. So let's get into that one now. So the old Weaver's house, it says on the front 1500. Although it says 1500s, it's believed that it was built around about 1450. It's got a ducking stall on the back end of it. Now, I couldn't get a proper filming of the ducking stall. Unfortunately, it was really busy when we went there, and I didn't want to start interrupting people having their lunches and their meals. It's a restaurant now. So I tried to be as polite as possible, but walking around it, it's a stunning building. Again, it's one of the most historical buildings in Canterbury, along with the Cathedral and everything. But this place is said to be haunted by a grey lady. More grey ladies. I think people just need to be more descriptive with their ghosts. But is this a victim of someone who's on the ducking stool? I don't know. But this grey lady is seen on the staircase of the Weaver's house going up by a lot of domestic people. So a lot of people, the servants that at the house at the time, have seen this grey lady there. We have a recent report. So I say recent report. It's 1970s. The staff there are working, and they're closing up. They're tidying everything up and washing down. One of the young girls that are working there walks around the corner, and she's going up the stairs, and she says that this grey lady walks straight through her as she's going down the stairs. These are the reports that we get a lot. So there's a lot of those reports about this on the paranormal database. But also the BBC covered this. So the BBC sent their reporter there. So this was in 85. The BBC sent a reporter there. He is just spending some time in that building. Doesn't feel anything like that. Now this is back in time when you had Francis Wilson on the BBC weather programme. And there's a video clip out there. If someone will find it, thank you, it'd be great. They've got this young girl on the sofa that is from Weaver's house, telling her story about the history of Canterbury and apparently about the ghost sightings. And Francis Wilson, we know Francis Wilson was there at the time because he was standing in the background and as she's telling the story. And the bloke that had been at the BBC is sitting on the sea recounting the stuff that he had seen. So it must have been around Halloween. He says once the cameras had stopped filming, he went back up those stairs, and when he was coming back down, he swears there was a grey lady standing at the bottom of the stairs. So it's just a shame he never got it on camera. But as I said, the Weaver's house has got the ducking stool on the back. The Weaver's house was the location for the witch trials that went on in Canterbury. And he said that these ducking stools were used to drown the witches. The truth is, the ducking stool was never used to drown the witches. This ducking stool was used to punish women that didn't satisfy or behave for their husbands. And that's the truth about it. That's the truth about most ducking stools like this. So if a husband was unhappy with his wife, he would say something and he'd get her taken to the ducking stool till she agreed to do what the husband wanted. And that is the same for that ducking stool and most ducking stools around the country. The witch's ducking stool is not a thing of myths and legends. It was a real thing, but not to the extent that we believe. Most of these ones were for domestic use, we say, which is quite scary. But yeah, witches were tried. People accused of witchcraft were tried here, and they probably weren't used on a ducking stool because the ducking stool wasn't really that effective in that method. I know you all hear about people being ducked to death and all that, but yeah, when you dig into the real history of ducking stools, it's not what you think. Let's leave it at that. We know that some witches were executed, people accused of witchcraft were executed in Canterbury for the use of black magic and witchcraft. They are said to haunt the Weaver's house, and some say they put a curse on the Weaver's house, but looking at it now, it's still standing after, well, it was built in 1500. It's doing quite well for a place that's cursed, let's say that. It's surviving and thriving. So what are the ghost stories around these witches? They are your typical cackling lady, which is why I don't really put that much credibility into them. The grey lady one, yes I do. The grey lady is meant to be the wife of the old landlord there, who met her ends in not a very pleasant way. And she's meant to haunt the Weaver's house. Not only the Weaver's house, but the pathway going down the side of it. And if you go down there, it has got a creepy little feeling. It's just absolutely beautiful place anyway. But just to the side of the Weaver's house, you've got All Saints Lane. Now you walk down there, if you ever see the Harry Potter films, you can't fail to link the Harry Potter films to Canterbury. Not just the cloisters, but the roads look like Diagon Alley, and it's meant to be inspiration for that. A lot of those roads are meant to be inspiration for Diagon Alley, and in London as well. So another one of those things that whoever went around and designed it all got ideas from a lot of places. But there's a house there, the cottage, All Saints Cottage. In the second from last Harry Potter film, or is it the last Harry Potter film? One where the woman turns into a snake. I'm sure this is a house from it. They literally could have just picked this house up and stuck that in that film. It is creepy as... It just looks weird. And knowing that, this All Saints Lane is said to be haunted. And it's a really creepy little ghost story. So we've got this family that have finished up at the Weaver's house. They're walking down the road. They see All Saints Lane, and they walk down just to have a little nose. They get halfway down the road, when in front of them, they see, laying on the floor, is this lady. And she's meant to be surrounded by a puddle of blood. The father says to the mum, get the kids out of here. He goes up to see if the lady's okay, expecting to find a deceased person. And as he kneels down, there's no facial features of this lady. There's nothing there. He sort of sits back, because he's kneeling down. He sits back, and as he sits back and puts his hands on the ground, he said his hands are soaking wet. And when he looks up, his hands are covered in blood. And he's looking at his hands, and he looks back, and the lady has disappeared. That's a really creepy story. I can't find nothing to back that up. I can't find no reports of deaths in that alleyway. I'm not going to say it hasn't happened, just that I can't find the reports of it. Other people have turned around and say they see this grey lady walking up that alleyway and then vanishing. So you've got a lot of... Is this the same grey lady from the Weaver's house that he's seen going up the stairs? Is this where the man from the landlord from that pub done his wife in? It could be. That could link up to it. We know she lost her life and she's meant to haunt the pub. Does she haunt this lane? Is that where he got rid of her? But there's a river next to it. It'd been easier, wouldn't it? Overthinking things now. It's just... But yeah, surely you would use the stream next to the building. But... Well, a ducking stall. Could use a ducking stall. Now, while I was in Canterbury, the people I met all told me about Tiny Tim's tea room. I've come back and I've been researching it. And I'm going to read you the report. I'm going to wrap my glasses on. So, what I found so far. The 3 children. Location, Canterbury, Tiny Tim's Tea Room Restaurant, 34 St Margaret Street. Haunting manifestation. Time 2000. Workmen working on restoring the building during the 2000s reported the sound of children playing on the staircase, strange noises in the attic, the youngsters whispering in the panelled room, where they found relics from several children. That's what he said on the panel database. What other people say is that 100 years before then, the bodies of 3 children were found in that building, and they are said to haunt Tiny Tim's tea room and the rest of the street outside. Something interesting about Canterbury is the amount of ghosts that are seen just in the street. Now, I know I said, like, with Brentwood High Street, I've done a whole video on Brentwood High Street. With Canterbury, all these little roads have their own little ghost stories, and it is often things like monks, horse and carts, ladies, children, all seem to haunt different roads around that area. And this is the same as the stream that goes through the whole of Canterbury. It splits up into two. So up by where the old mill is, you've got reports of a old mill worker that is seen standing by the water's edge, looking down into the water, and then disappears. Again, a lot of these things have time stamps on them, so this man is meant to be there around about 8 o'clock at night. A lot of stuff outside the Bishop's Finger is meant to happen on Friday nights. So, and I was there on Saturday night. Poor timing, weren't it, really? Should have known, should have gone different nights, might have seen something. But the one at the mill, because it's next to a road, has lots of reports of drivers driving down that road, catching a glimpse of this glowing figure of this man by the mill. Well, it's not a mill, it's just an empty area now. You've got the stream and the bridge. Now, he's looking down there and he vanishes as they're driving past. And that is quite a regular sighting. And the same as the lady that is meant to be seen on one of the footbridges over there, that goes over the stream. She's meant to be seen on this footbridge looking over the stream and then vanishes. Again, so you've got a lot of, there's just so many ghost stories of Canterbury. I'm not going to go into them all. The video is long enough as it is now. But yeah, go to Canterbury, have a look, walk around the cathedral. It's absolutely stunning. I didn't go inside it. It was shut when we got there. We went there too late. But yeah, it's just well worth it. It's history. It's, you know, there's so many tunnels under Canterbury as well. So I just see Andy the gardener and his friend Peter do a video on the G Cross at the Grapes, the tunnels that go under into the High Chapel. Again, in Canterbury, we've got lots of these tunnels going under the ground, and you know, it's the same as Fobbing with the shipping cottages with their tunnels that go under. And you know, I went into that tunnel when it was bricked up, but all those have got their own little ghost stories. With the Grapes one, he talks about the illegal fighting and boxing that went on. That is actually the same in Canterbury, and the same at Fobbing. These cellars were used for illegal cockfighting, all that sort of stuff went on in those areas. Its own bare knuckle fighting scene, and the same as though in Thurrock, they spoke about bare knuckle fighting up in G Cross, because one of our old bare knuckle fighters actually used to travel up to Manchester to fight their champion. I wonder if they ever met. It would be quite interesting if someone from our area went up there to fight them. But all this stuff did go on. It was like an underground world champion boxing thing. It was quite interesting. Going well off topic now, but again, thank you for all your support. I know someone said about setting up something like a buy me a drink thing or something, or where you can donate. I've got the membership on there. If you want to support me, you can join up on the membership. I think you can do super thanks or something like that, but I really appreciate that. It's really kind of you to ask me to do that. We keep grinding through, and with your support, we're getting out there, trying to break the algorithm. Let's face it, we did well. Social Blade reckons that I weren't going to get to 5,000 subscribers until November. We done it last week. Absolutely fantastic. So I appreciate you all, and we're going to have some really hot weather again. So look after yourself. I got really burnt the other day, and look, I've got a nice tan though. But I'll see you in the next video. Use some sun cream. See you soon. Bye.